next on the agenda, we have pre-boarding, and this is going to be presented by Monica Ash. Monica is a CSPA Coach 1. She has been frequenting our drop zone for several years now and has some really amazing progression. So Monica, I'm going to get Gord to unmute you. And then I am going to get you started on your presentation.
Okay. Hi. Can everyone hear me?
We can hear you great.
Okay, great. I don't have any fancy slides, but I've got rainbow bunny ears. So I think that's awesome. And I think that's all you really need, right? There might be dogs barking in the background, but let's just ignore that. So I am talking about pre-boarding. So that's everything you need to check and be thinking about before you find yourself getting on an airplane and jumping out of the airplane. So there are some key points. So I'll just list them out and then I'll go back to each key point and kind of list everything that each one kind of in more detail. So the first thing is drop zone specifics, and then you want to be checking in with yourself, and then gear, and then jump plans, and then gearing up and getting ready to board the plane. So the first one was drop zone specifics. So what I mean by that is you want to make sure if you're going to a new drop zone, it's one you've never jumped in, that you get a proper debriefing or a briefing of the drop zone itself, the landing area, if you are taking off at a different location, what that all entails, what aircraft you're going to be jumping out of, if they have different aircrafts, if there's specific rules around the aircrafts. I know when we get the Skyvan in, there's different kind of rules, and you know, the door's a little wonky and stuff. So you need to know how to make sure that you have the knowledge of how that all works and what that all entails. And then the landing area and landing patterns. Some drop zones are very specific on ways that you can land. You can't just be like, oh, I'm going to land into the wind, because maybe that's not an okay way to land. When we were jumping at the Qualicum Beach Airport, I know that there was 2 directions we could land, and if it was crosswind, sort it out. That's what you get. And even our current landing area, we've got 3 corners that we can enter into our pattern, and if you want to come in the other way, no go, unless John Minos is there, and then he'll say go in that way, and then we get in trouble, but that's okay. So yeah, and then you want to know the spot, like, so if you're jumping that day, you want to know what the winds are doing, what your spot is going to be, where you need to be looking when you're opening the door and getting ready to jump, like what kind of area you need to be in. And if they have any weird, funky weather patterns going on at their certain drop zone, and how it might affect you in your landing, like, you know, turbulence areas where there might be routers coming off the trees or things like that. So yeah, drop zone specifics, and then you want to be checking in with yourself. So what I mean by that is, like, are you tired? Are you hungry? Are you thirsty? Are you stressed? Do you have stuff going on at home? These are all things that can affect your jumping, and you need to take it into consideration every single time you're jumping. I have been manifested on loads with people who have come up to me and we're about to get in the shuttle, and they're like, you know what, I'm not feeling it today. I got to go home. I've been thinking about, you know, what's going on at home. I can't do it. And you know what? That's awesome. That's great that they recognize that, and I'm glad that they have taken themselves off the load. I myself have taken myself off the loads if the winds get squirrely and I'm not comfortable, or if I'm just tired and I'm just stressed and emotional. I don't feel ready to jump. So you need to have that knowledge, and you need to check in with yourself and know that you're not going to be hosing anybody. Nobody's going to be mad at you if you take yourself off a load because you just don't feel right. Know that it's okay for whatever reason to do that. And I just want to really drive that point home. And then gear, of course. So Brian obviously talked about checking for wear on your gear. So that's not only first thing when you arrive at the drop zone, but it's after every single jump. It doesn't mean you necessarily have to go meticulously through point by point by point, but, you know, maybe you had a hard opening. Okay, so check yourselves. Maybe something exploded in there, you don't know, right? Maybe you clipped the side of a tree and you just thought you clipped it, but there might be an actual tear there. Your brake lines, check for twists. Your closing loops, every single time you close up that bag, check your closing loop. Don't think, oh, it's a little bit frayed, I think I can squeeze another jump out of that. Don't risk it. If there's any question, take the time, get a closing loop and just sort it out. There's always closing loops lying around at most drop zones. You got bags of them. Ask a rigger or just eat it up. You're not going to jump that day, take it to a rigger and get it fixed. Don't take that risk. Don't think that you can just get by with another, oh, I think I can squeak another thing through. No, don't do it. Just fix it. And then also with your gear, all your electronic gear. So offsets, know how to program your offsets if they are going to be applicable. Some drop zones, I know, including our drop zone, we take off at an airport that is lower than our landing area. So that means that on my AAD, my activation altitude, I want it to be a little like higher. So it says plus 150 because I have a vigil. And then, but again, the altitude might be different depending on where you're jumping. And then on I have a VISO altimeter, so I want it to say minus. So there's always like, do I set it plus? Do I set it minus? If there's any question, ask somebody who knows. Ask somebody who's familiar with the drop zone and what your readings need to say, but also be familiar with your gear, because I know that some people have altimeters who can program an offset into it. So when they're standing at the airport, it might say 0, whereas mine says minus 130, but they have an offset programmed into theirs. So know your gear, read the manuals. Yes, they're kind of boring, but they're also kind of cool. And if you don't want to read the manuals, talk to a rigger, know how your gear works and know how to program those offsets. And they are very important. I don't care if the offset is 10 feet or 1,000 feet. It matters, and just do it. It takes 2 minutes, do it, please. And then your batteries, make sure your batteries are in good condition. If you're hearing the little warning beeps that things are getting low, take the time, change it, just do it. And then your jump plans. So who's on your flight? What are they doing? Who are you sharing the aircraft with? What is your exit order? What is your jump plan? What are you doing? You need to know all of this before you get on the plane. Don't just scramble into the plane and be like, oh yeah, we'll figure it out in there. No, don't do it. Make a goal, make a plan. Even if you're jumping by yourself, make a goal for yourself. Like on this jump, I want to practice this, or maybe I'm going to do this type of an exit, and then let other people know what you're going to be doing as well. Another thing that's kind of good to consider as well is the gear that people are jumping, what canopy sizes they're on, because that is actually kind of applicable as well, because maybe you're getting out first, so you think, oh yeah, I'm going to be the first down. But if you have a really light wing loading, and you've got somebody who's on like a 69 Leia or something, not mentioning any names, you might want to take that into consideration. And like, I mean, yes, everybody has to pay attention to traffic and fly their canopy accordingly. And if somebody's below you, then they just have to figure it out. But you do want to be considerate and take into consideration what other people are flying and the different skill levels of people. So yeah, and then exit order, of course, is really important, because there's nothing more annoying than loading into the plane and then we're like, oh wait, but no, we were going to do this and you have to go there. Know your exit order. The pilot's going to get annoyed. We'll get behind. Allison will yell. It won't be good. And yeah, and then after all of that, you're going to be gearing up. And so you want to make sure everything's routed correctly. Checking your pins, doing your pin checks. Check yourself, check your friends. Never feel weird about asking for a pin check. I don't care if you have like 5,000 jumps. I've had people who are well more experienced than me asking for a gear check when we are getting ready to load the plane. So don't ever feel bad or like, too novice for that or something. No, just get a gear check. It's no big deal. And keep your eyes open for other people's gear as well. Like if you see something wonky on somebody else's rig, say something. Like, don't be like, oh, they have so many more jumps than me, I shouldn't say something. No, if it looks weird to you, say it. Maybe it is something weird, or maybe it's just something on their rig, but at least you said something, and then you can go from there, right? And yeah, handle check. Get it before you get in the plane, check them. And I don't mean just these guys, I mean your pilot chute as well, because that can get shifted. And then, you know, you get up, you turn around, check your handles again when you're getting ready to exit the aircraft. And yeah, I think that's it. I think that's all the pre-boarding stuff. So do all those things, be good. Never feel bad about taking yourself off a load if you feel just not well, or if something looks weird on your gear and you're just not sure. Just don't jump. There's always going to be more jumps. And that's all I got to say.
Monica, that was awesome. Excellent. One thing I just will add to that, when you were talking about make sure Manifest knows what you're doing. There's nothing more frustrating for any Manifest person at any drop zone that you got like, oh, what are they doing on the plane? So it's a safety thing. So make sure that you guys educate Manifest on what you're doing. You got a two-way belly, two-way free fly, whatever. It looks like I have a question from Paige. So Paige, I'm just going to ask you to unmute, and there you go.
Hey, just kind of question, kind of mute. How do you guys feel when you're doing a gear check on someone? Some people I've noticed there's different opinions on where the pin should be, whether it's 2/3 or all the way in. There's some people who, if you're checking the gear, you'll just like push it all the way in if that's how you feel it should be. How do you guys feel about, you know, do you think you should be voicing, hey, it's 2/3 or 3/4 rather than just changing it? What are your guys' thoughts on that?
Brian Murray, could I maybe get you to answer that question?
Yep. So, you know, at least halfway, I like to go more, maybe 2/3, 3/4. Don't shove it all the way right up to the, you know, you got the little loop where the bridle attaches. The way the pin is curved is when the pilot chute pulls, it pulls, here's your, you know, your container when you're in free fall, the pilot bridle's pulling this way. That pin is lying, it's hard to, we had an example here, but your curved pin lying flat, and the bridle's going to pull it upright, and then it's going to kind of rotate out. So if you shoved it in all the way up to that metal loop, it makes it pretty hard for the bridle to stand that pin up before it pulls it out. So not quite all the way in, you know, the 2/3, 3/4 is a really good point to aim for. Definitely at least halfway or more though.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. The question was more about when you're doing a pin check on somebody else's gear, whether you should change that or not without voicing it.
Yeah, always good to talk to somebody, tell somebody what you're doing to your gear and their gear, and get permission before you mess with stuff. I mean, just courtesy, you know, I prefer somebody tell me before they do something than just come up and start doing stuff to my gear. I'm sure you do too. So
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Brian. Danny, I saw that your hand was up. I'm not sure if you've put it down because.
Yeah, Brian got my comment dead on.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Any other questions for Monica? Anything about whatever she said?
Where I got my bunny ears from?
Yeah, they look fantastic.
Yeah, all good.
Awesome. Well, Monica, again, thank you. Oh, Adam has a question. Sorry, Adam, I'm gonna, oh, I just muted us. There you go.
Oh, sorry, I'll share my screen as well here. Whoops. Yeah, not really a question. Great presentation, Monica. That was awesome. The only thing I wanted to say or add was just never, like pre-boarding especially, if you ever have any questions, I don't care how experienced you are, if you have any doubts or any concerns, any questions of any kind, do not ever be afraid to ask anybody and just clarify things right from the get-go. But I know there can be some ego involved and some, you know, hesitation, or, you know, feel that people are new or whatever. So if you ever have any of those feelings, don't. Just ask somebody and stay safe.
Yeah.
Great
Agreed.
points, Adam. And if at any drop zone, all you have to do is go to Manifest and they can direct you to the right people, whether it's coaches, instructors, riggers. So depending on your question, we'll find the right person to answer it. Because sometimes it's not, your best buddy next to you. Sometimes you might need a little bit more than that. Also, don't forget the hard work by many through CSPA over the years, our PIMS manuals, lots of documentation on the CSPA website as well, to reference all of the stuff we're talking about today. Actually, much of it is in on the CSPA website, whether it be in the PIM manuals or anything like that. Awesome. Thanks again, Monica.